Today is 41-1 and we're going to be taking a look at the law of cosines. So you're going to solve oblique triangles using the law of cosines. So the last two cases that we have not talked about yet are going to be the side, 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 and sine angle side. Now the way that we solve these different oblique triangles is by using the law of cosines. And so first we're going to define them, and so this is going to be the standard form of the law of cosines. And there's three versions of this. Why do we have three versions? Well, it depends on what side we're trying to find. So we're trying to find, and it's either side A or side B or side C. Now it does seem kind of weird, but it makes more sense as you start practicing it, because you'll notice that if you're trying to find side A, you have every other bits of information, but you don't have that side, and so you have to go through and you have to find it. Now, what if I wanted to get the angle by itself? And so I have three different versions of this getting that angle by itself as well. And so this is when we're trying to find the angle, and this is when we're trying to find the side. And the last thing that we have to kind of pay attention to when we're doing this is our parentheses. When we enter this into our calculator, you can technically just enter this entire statement into your calculator, and then eventually, obviously, you're going to have to square root it, but you can just enter that into your calculator. And the alternative form, because we're adding and subtracting in the numerator, you have to say we need to do that entire thing first, and then when you divide, you also have to put parentheses around that as well. So don't forget to make sure you put in your proper parentheses, because if you don't, it's going to say domain error, and you'll be like, oh, I'm doing it wrong. Well, it's like, yeah, because you probably didn't do your parentheses right. So just make sure that you have the parentheses in the correct spot as you go through and you do this. So first one says find the three angles of the triangle. So I need to find angle A, angle C, and angle B. And so let's find the angle opposite to the longest side first. And so I want to find angle C, and so I'm going to use that formula that I just gave that had angle C in it, that we're trying to find for that. And so just remember, when entering that into our calculator, you'd have to have parentheses around that. And so I plugged in what my A is, what my B is, what my C is, divided by 2 times my A times my B. You literally enter that into your calculator and you get 117.3. It's just, boop, you got it, we're done, move on to the next thing. Now I can do the same thing to angle B. But remember, because it's angle B, now this is A squared plus C squared minus B squared. That's also another thing that we can get kind of confused about, is we just have to make sure that we're entering the correct A, B, and C into our calculator when we're doing this. Once again, make sure you have the correct parentheses, and then when you simplify in your calculator, you get 26.4. But now that I have those two other angles, 180 degrees minus the rest, I can find my other angle. So it's not overly complicated, it's pretty straightforward. Just remember that you still have to determine the case so that I know, oh, I'm going to have to use the law of cosines here. And so because this is side, 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 I know that I'm going to be using the law of cosines. The angles are what's missing, therefore I'm going to have to use the formulas that find the missing angles. All right, so for the next example, I have to determine the case. And so in this case, it is going to be side, angle, side, side, angle, side. And so because of that, I know I'm going to use the law of cosines. I don't have angle A. I don't have angle C. And I don't have side B. Now, if you're looking through the formulas, if you notice, there's no formula in which I can find angle A without knowing my B. I can't find angle C without knowing what my B is. So the only alternative here is I actually have to find my B first. And so I'm going to have to use the formula that has B by itself. So I'm going to say B squared equals A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine B. Now if you notice, when you plug in the values, it works out perfectly, because it's still going to be this B squared equals, and the only variable that I have is B, so I can solve for the variable. Now I understand that in my calculations I broke down everything individually, You don't necessarily have to do that. You could literally just enter the entire statement into your calculator and it's going to come out and giving you the right answer. The only thing that we have to remember when we do this is it's b squared is approximately 98.2. It's not b is approximately 98.2. So then on our last step, we do have to take the square root. And so we're going to get it b is approximately 9.9. Now it's not plus or minus. Remember, we can't have a negative distance for a side, so that's why it's not plus or minus in this instance. But now that I have my b, then I could use my other formulas to find another value. And so in this case, I'm going to find angle A. And so plugging that into my calculator, remember the parentheses for this, that you have to format it correctly. And so you're going to get 37.2. And so once I have that value, then I can do 180 degrees minus the rest, and then I'm going to get what my value for C is. Like I said, the law of cosines, this isn't a complicated lesson, but that's essentially using the pieces there. I hope this answers any of your guys' questions. If you do have further questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments.